Welcome to Make America Healthy. My name is Beth Shaw. I'm the host of this podcast, the founder of Yoga Fit Training Systems, the world's largest yoga mind body school, the author of 4 books, and I'm so pleased to be bringing you information to help you learn more, to educate yourself on everything health and wellness. So we want you to take more control of your own physical, mental, and spiritual health. Today's topic is new trends in psychedelics, and we are joined by Zappy Zapolin, who is known as the psychedelic concierge to the stars. And he's got a pretty interesting story. He has done a lot of work for celebrities, for people with addiction issues, depression, anxiety, and all of that. So, who better to educate us all on the vast topic of psychedelics than Zappy? Zappy, welcome to Make America Healthy.
Thank you. Great to be here. I've enjoyed following you for the last few years as we've crossed paths at different conferences and all kinds of things. Appreciate you making this information available.
Sure. So tell us how you got your start, because this is an unusual track that people might find themselves in as a profession.
It is. I had basically my own spiritual midlife crisis that a lot of people I think are going through right now. About 12 years ago or so, I started to feel like I'd done everything society told me to do to be completely fulfilled. I had done it, go to school, get a job, make money, have a family, build your wealth, and you'll be totally fulfilled. And I was like, that's the American dream. So I did it all. And here I was thinking to myself, well, I'm not really totally fulfilled. I don't even know what I'm doing here right now in my life as a human being. And so I thought to myself that I had had some good psychedelic experiences when I was younger. And I thought, wow, maybe I have to go back inside my mind like I did when I was younger, but this time do it with more intention and try to get some answers and some healing for myself and figure out if life is worth living at this point, if I did everything that you're supposed to do to be fulfilled. So I had seen back in 2010, I had started to see ayahuasca coming out, information about that. And I thought, wow, maybe I have to go sit with a shaman in the jungle, do ayahuasca, and that's the only way I'm going to get at some of these answers. So once I convinced myself and psyched myself up enough to do it, I had always had some production equipment around me because I'd been in advertising and marketing. And I was lucky enough to get Michelle Rodriguez, the actress from Fast and Furious at the time, to agree to come to Peru with me and my friends and for us to go sit with a shaman in the jungle. And that's exactly what we did. We went down there and we had an incredible ayahuasca plant medicine ceremony in the jungle. We did something called San Pedro, a cactus, a couple days before that. And if you see the movie, The Reality of Truth, because we took that adventure that we went on. And as a filmmaker, I just followed myself and Michelle for a couple of years. Her and I did some more psychedelics together. And we just thought about our lives and how we were integrating that experience. And we turned it into a movie called The Reality of Truth. Michelle is so good in the movie. You see really the arc of her character. You see her coming into her feminine. You see her get confidence to go back into Hollywood and be a writer and put herself really in some big roles and star in movies at a different level. And she attributed a lot of that to her ayahuasca experience. Of course, she had some challenges. Her friend Paul Walker, the actor, was killed in an accident. She had to go through that whole process. But she said ultimately that her experience with the ayahuasca really informed her on how to deal with that situation in life and in general. So that movie, The Reality of Truth, been seen over 25 million times now. It's said to have caused over 1 million people to have a psychedelic experience because they saw the movie. And that was really our goal when we set out and we launched it. We said, we hope this movie can be like the movie that you watch. And when it's over, you say, oh my God, I think I'm ready for plant medicine now. So that was that experience. It's so profound to find yourself almost like a newborn again, post psychedelics. They're almost like cleans the slate. And now you're sitting there, okay, what do I want to do? What makes me happy? What path should I follow? And for me, it was getting the message out about this plant medicine stuff because it had such a profound effect on me that I thought I have to share this. And So as I was doing that, I wound up eventually going and doing ibogaine, which is an African root that's known as the most powerful psychedelic in the world, and break a heroin addiction, opiates, alcohol, gambling, meth, anything, just one 12-hour, very intense session. I went to do it. I didn't have an addiction, but I really wanted to understand it and dig deeper inside of myself. And I did it, and it was an incredible experience. 15, life changing. Came back and kept telling everybody that they should go sit with a shaman. And everybody who really needed it was not really able to tell their family or their doctor, like, oh, I'm just going to go to the jungle now and work this out. So I was looking for a Western medicine approach that would be accessible to people here in the Western society. And in 2015, a friend told me about ketamine, and he showed me the Yale study on ketamine as a depression disruptor. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. I've got to try this. It could be important for these folks that I want to get healing for, but that can't necessarily access plant medicine, go to the jungle and leave the country and all the things that you have to do here in America, which again, making America healthy, we've got to change the laws right now on these psychedelics post pandemic, where everybody's walking around with PTSD, anxiety, suicidal ideation, addiction. It's rampant. I think these psychedelics are really going to be the thing. But for us, ketamine feels like the one, because when I tried it in 2015 in the doctor's office, he gave me the IV. As soon as it hit me, I was just like, wow, this is what everybody needs right now. Quiet all that chatter down in your mind and just be sitting there in present moment awareness for 35, 45 minutes. And then the beautiful part is 30 minutes later, you get up, you walk out, you go get a smoothie, and you're good. Where ayahuasca, you got a diet before, you got all kinds of integration, and it's very difficult, even with mushrooms, to try to understand exactly what the message was and what it's all about. With the ketamine, it's like you drop into this present moment awareness where you're there the whole time. You're just having these incredible visuals. Your brain is turned on 80%, which is what they show ketamine doing under a brain scan. As soon as I left that doctor's office, I was like, this is it for me. I am going into, there's nothing that's going to work like this. There's nothing that can put you in that present moment awareness. It's the best part of the ayahuasca experience, but without all that dieting and purging and integration. I was so happy to find it.
There's a lot to unpack here. Substances that are legal, like ketamine, things that are in a gray area, like ayahuasca, things you need to leave the country for, ibogaine. We've obviously heard a lot about MDMA and psilocybin being legalized in certain states, cannabis being a psychoactive as well, legal in most states for at least medical reasons now. For a lot of these things, Zappy, and I've tried my fair share, I'm assuming that you need to have some type of an ongoing protocol. I did 6 rounds of ketamine, and I was a kinder, nicer, more gentle person. I was off of antidepressant medication at the time and looking for some alternatives after my ayahuasca journey left me feeling like I needed to do something to my brain, and I just knew it. And that's how I ended up there. For me, the effects wore off. I didn't go back. Are these things that, much like one would take an antidepressant pill on a daily basis, are these things that need to be done on some type of a schedule? And then how does one know what that schedule is?
Yeah, those are good questions. First of all, at all points, you want to work with somebody who has experience. I call myself a psychedelic concierge because I'm not a shaman and I'm not giving you the medicine the doctor is, but I'm helping you to understand what your formula is. Because a lot of times it's not just one thing, because all these psychedelics have a different frequency vibration, a different benefit. While ibogaine's great for addiction or somebody who really needs a reboot, ayahuasca can be great for somebody that needs like the feminine hug from the grandmother. Ketamine can be great for triaging people. Mushroom microdosing can be fantastic for giving you more joy on a weekly basis. DMT, it's a 10-minute, 15-minute experience to blast you off and disrupt your pattern. So you really want to work with somebody who understands what they're doing and who can, based on you telling them what your intention is, what your traumas are, what you're trying to get out of the experience, that they could guide you to have a really good formula for you. Then you need to integrate that experience through meditation, breathing, integration work, and assisted therapy after. It's very important that you get that psychotherapy from somebody who's been there, done that with the compound that you're talking about, because otherwise they might not even be qualified to have that discussion with you.
I 100% agree with you. And in terms of psychotherapy, practitioners are all over the map in if they advocate for this type of non-traditional work or not. I know a lot of the ketamine centers have psychotherapy or group therapy available. Sometimes I had a coach for my ketamine journey, and she had only done ketamine twice. And I thought to myself, how is someone going to advise me who's such a newbie at this experience? So, for the person listening to this, and I hope a lot of people are listening, because I do want people to know that there are options outside of the traditional Western pill model. And I have nothing against antidepressants. I think that for a lot of people, there are many that are effective. But then for other people, they have to try 10 different ones. They still haven't found what they're looking for, and their side effects. It can be said that some of these substances are natural, like ayahuasca or psilocybin, but then some like LSD or ketamine are actually manufactured in a lab. So is that any better than an antidepressant you're going to take? That's only a question that you, the listener, can ask and answer to yourself. Where does one go? I have lived in Los Angeles. I've lived in New York City. I now live in South Florida. It's not that hard to find resources. But for the person who may be living in the middle of the country and it's not as accessible, where do they start?
That's a good question. Obviously, the East and West Coast are going to have earlier opportunities than the middle of the country and in everything that happens, including psychedelic access. But I just want to go back to your last question, because the difference between antidepressants and psychedelics is a big one. What it is, the antidepressants are only supposed to be used on a very short-term basis. But here in society, we've started, because they don't work as well as they need to, people start taking them for years and years. And as you take those antidepressants, you're taking them every day. So they're building up and they're changing your brain chemistry. With the psychedelics, they're synthesizing out of your system within hours or days. So you don't have that same buildup, which is why you don't have the same side effects that these antidepressants have. That's number one. Number two, even though LSD and ketamine are created from organic compounds in a lab, I still consider them from nature. And I'll tell you why, because LSD is actually a bacteria that grows on a rye seed. That's how they found this acid. You can take it from the rye seed, it's the same thing, or you can synthesize it in the lab because molecules are the same. So either way, if you get lab-made LSD or you take it right from the bacteria, you're going to have that same effect. That's the beauty of modern science, I think. And then ketamine, they make it out of some salts and some minerals. They process it, and this new ketamine crystal occurs. Even ayahuasca has to be processed. So you take the vine of one plant and the leaf of another, you put it together, you boil it. So a human has to produce this compound, the end product. So to me, all of these are still natural for that reason, and the fact that they're out of your system so quick. I believe that they're completely different than antidepressants for that reason. The reason ketamine's different is that all those other ones are hallucinogenics, acid or mushrooms or ayahuasca. You're going to have hallucinations. With the ketamine, it's what's called a dissociative. It's basically just separating your left and right brain and letting them communicate without your ego getting all involved in it. You're just watching it as it happens, the colors, the shapes, the images, the scenes you're seeing. And for me, that is really exciting because they've proven that when ketamine metabolizes in the hours after, it actually grows new neural pathways in the brain. So if you think of your brain like your mind, like a foundation of a building, if you have a 40 years or 50 years of broken structure, you are going to have to build that up a little bit. That's why they have this protocol of the 6 treatments with ketamine plus a booster in order to strengthen that foundation. It's not something that you necessarily have to take the rest of your life. Ketamine, you're even supposed to, over the course of a few years, be able to taper yourself from once a quarter to twice a year to once a year and off, because you're building actual new neural pathways. The point of psychedelics, as we're finding out, is really about neural plasticity. That is building up these new neural pathways and keeping them fresh so that when bad things happen or good things, when they come into your brain, they don't hit this rigid structure that just is like, I'm a failure, nobody loves you. Don't going through those patterns. You got fresh patterns now that are, I'm here in the present moment and I'm going forward into the future. And that's why I love ketamine assisted therapy. I don't say psychotherapy because a lot of times that's about, tell me about your mother 30 years ago, what happened with your, when you come out of the ketamine, you're like this beautiful state of mind. You're like, I don't really care what happened 30 years ago. I'm here in present. I'm moving forward. I've got these new neural pathways. So the therapist can take you in a direction of, what do you like to do? How are you going to integrate this? What would be the best way for you to work with this, as opposed to traditional therapy where you're just talking about your problems and hoping they change.
Right.
That's not going to work. We need new actual dendrites in the brain, which is what ketamine and some of these other create.
Wonderful. Tell us the name of the film that you did with Lamar Odom so that our listeners can check it out.
Yes, I did a movie with Lamar Odom called Lamar Odom Reborn. And that follows the psychedelic intervention that I did with Lamar over the course of a few years. I was showing my movie, The Reality of Truth, with Michelle Rodriguez all over the country. And I showed it one night here in Florida at a health clinic called Hippocrates Health Institute in West Palm. And I was showing it, and somebody came up to me after the screening and they said, "Hey, I'm friends with Lamar Odom, basketball player, Kardashian. He's not in a great place right now. And I just saw your movie. Would you be willing to talk to him about psychedelics and plant medicine?" And so I said, "Yeah, absolutely. I love it." And I met Lamar in going through the process of, what's your intention? What are your traumas and things? I realized that this guy, who was a lifelong addict, wasn't really like a traditional addict where he was addicted to the drugs. He just basically had trauma that he could not face. His mother had died when he was 12 years old of cancer in front of him. He had a 6-month-old son die, infant crib syndrome, when he was off playing. So he would just not want to process any of this and be sad and depressed. If somebody came over, when you're a celebrity, and they, "Hey, have a drink, have one of these pills, snort this, let's get on a plane and go to Vegas," he would just do it, not be sitting there with his thoughts. When he came to me, he had overdosed, he had a very public overdose, and he was in a coma for a few days. Actually, during the coma, he had 12 strokes and 6 heart attacks during that time. He was in a kind of rough shape. I suggested to him that he allow me to bring him to the ketamine doctor and do a series of ketamine treatments, because he'd never done psychedelics before and he was nervous. He'd always been told, stay away. Basically, what he'd been told was, if something bad happens, because you're an African American guy, you could be shot by the police, you could be put in a mental institution, something that we have to correct right now. The movie that he did hopes to correct that, which is, it's okay to talk about mental health and it's okay to consider psychedelics, even if you come from a background of being told not to do it. That we're in a very extenuating circumstance right now in the world where the old stuff, these pills and this talk therapy, they don't work. They really don't work at getting at the root problem. Probably for 5% of the people or less, it does work. They want to get out of it. But for most people that are addicted to pills these days, they're not even drug addicts. They're just people who had a pain injury. They wound up on pain pills. Now they're on fentanyl and they're addicted and all that. So if we have these incredible tools of plant medicine, we have to use them now for good people. But what happened with Lamar was, I looked at it and I was like, wow, Lamar, why don't you do the ketamine with the doctor? Feel like what it feels like to go inside, and then we can go from there. Took him to do that. He went inside. He had a great experience. Took him around a bunch of other doctors in the country, and he had their different protocols. he was stabilized at that point. I said, Lamar, knowing you, knowing that you have a lifetime addiction, I think you need to go probably down to Mexico and do ibogaine with a doctor, break this addiction and get this monkey off your back once and for all. He was comfortable enough at that point. He trusted me. And we went down to Mexico. Ibogaine is an African root, one and done. You do it one time, 12 hours, 24 hours, something like that. And you come out the other side. They show that the ibogaine works on every area of your brain. It wipes your prefrontal cortex, so you have no cravings when you come out. And they just put out an article that says after you do ketamine, you are physiologically 1.3 years younger than you were in the hours before the treatment.
That's reason enough for all of us to want to. Zappy, thank you so much. This has been very educational. Tell our listeners where they can find you.
Yes, the best place to find me is zappyzapolin.com, and I'm at Zappy Zapolin on social media. And you can come to my site. You can find the Lamar movie. That one's on Amazon Prime and YouTube. Same thing with Reality of Truth. It's on Amazon Prime and YouTube. And I suggest anybody watch those movies because between Michelle Rodriguez and Lamar, they are incredible spokespeople, and they're the kind of, you get to see them go through it as opposed to you wondering, hey, what am I going to feel like after? How about the next day, a month later? Just watch the movie and it should give you the confidence to try this new route or at least investigate it for yourself.
Wonderful. We thank you so much. We'd like to thank the sponsors of Make America Healthy, our program sponsor, Previmedica, offering innovative testing for food sensitivities, micronutrient deficiencies, methylation, and so much more. I've personally done this test, and it was a game changer in terms of digestion, inflammation, and gut issues. They have one-on-one counseling that they can offer you to advise on nutrition and headaches, breathing problems, and a host of other issues. So this is a very interesting test that will show you what foods you're sensitive to. Even if you think those foods are healthy, they may not be good for you because remember, you are a unique individual creature. So we have to keep trying different things and see what works. You can save 15% at checkout by using the code YogaFit at Previmedica.com. You can also call them at 855-773-8463, extension 111. Or email them at hello@previmedica.com. We'd like to thank Previmedica. We'd also like to thank our title sponsor, YogaFit Training Systems Worldwide, the leader in yoga, mind, body, fitness education, for over 26 years, educating people on how to take better control of their physical and mental health through yoga and other mind-body disciplines, offering conferences around North America, offering online trainings, education, workshops, corporate wellness, and so much more. Go to yogafit.com and you can save 15% at checkout by using the code MAH24. Thank you so much to our sponsors. Thank you, Zappy Zapolin. And if you enjoyed this show and know someone who needs to hear it, please share it. And until next time, everyone, stay healthy, stay open, stay flexible, stay happy. Namaste. Thank you.